part 2. All right, so I have the bezel right here, and I've got the seam over here. Let's see if I can kind of turn it. So the seam is right here, and so what I'm going to try to do is solder that there. I'm not going to try, I'm going to do it. So, and then we're going to sand it down, we're going to fit it again, and then we'll talk about how to solder to the back plate. So I have my little torch. I know you have that gigantic one, but this is kind of what's going to happen. You're going to go ahead and use what you have. Anyway, so putting the flux on, make sure you get it on both sides, and then just kind of going to warm the piece up a little bit. So you don't want to get a I'm kind of doing this opposite. Normally I'd be coming kind of from this side and kind of doing it in. So always solder your bezels with hard solder. It's the first join that you make, and it's the one that you want to be the most secure. I tend to pick solder, so I kind of heat up the whole piece gently, not real concentrated flame. I have the solder already on my pick. You see that? Woo, yay, solder on my pick. So, and then I'm going to go in, I'm going to place the solder, get it pretty hot. Place that solder. There, done. Okay, so it goes real quick, especially with my little bitty torch, but it does work really well. I did flux it. I don't know if I said that. Anyway, so I just dunked it in water just to make sure that kind of break up the flux off of that. And then from here, we're going to go back and see how it fits. And so I'm going to take the camera off my stand. Yes, I'm still amusing. Ooh, seasick. Yow. Okay. So from here, then we're going to kind of go back to where we were. Alright, so now we've got this bezel, and so it's all soldered together. First thing I usually do is I'll go in there, I usually pickle it, just do something like that, but in terms of time. So then I see that it's misshapen. If you're using the fine silver, a lot of times what you can do is just push down and just make sure that it goes all the way to the back. If you find that it's a little tight, one thing you can do is put it on a mandrel, stretch it up just by lightly tapping it, or you can use like pliers, and you can put it inside the pliers, and then you put it up towards the top, and then you just pull and stretch it, and then you just kind of get it till it gets to be the right size. And so what you're looking for is a nice tight fit, but you don't want it to like be really big, but you don't want it to completely have any gaps, but you don't want it to be so tight that your stone doesn't really push through. You just want it to fit nice, like a nice fitting pair of jeans that you could still go to Porque No and have a taco. Ooh, I miss Porque No. So from there, what I usually do is sand the bezel. And so what you want to do is sand this bezel. This is a sanding stick just for illustration purposes here. And I'm going kind of back and forth. Normally I would suggest kind of a figure 8. And so what I'm doing is just kind of putting an even pressure and doing a little figure 8. Using pretty fine sandpaper. This is 60 microns, which is probably the equivalent of like 350. Okay, so now it's sanded all flat. You'll see that there's no kind of unevenness. If you solder something together and it wasn't real even, fits on there really nice. I go ahead and do the top a little bit here too now. I don't concentrate quite as much on it, but I do still the same. Get it going. All right. And then if you still are seeing little spots where there's a gap or something like that on the bezel, or something's going on, like it's uneven, like one side was a little higher than the other side, you just want to kind of work those out gradually, just sanding back and forth. Again, figure 8 is better because then you kind of distribute your pressure differently, so you don't really have just a one direction thing and getting it where it becomes slanted or something like that. And that's one thing that you look at. So start to look at your bezel, say, okay, is it even going all the way around? I'm kind of looking, I'm noticing not. So I'm going to kind of go back and concentrate on where I see that one end of the bezel is a little taller than the other. And then you just kind of take a good look at it and just decide. There's that seam there that you have, and you can run over that. You can do it before you kind of start the sanding on the top and the bottom. But you just want to make sure that you kind of get that seam kind of to disappear. Okay, so I go back and I get that all fitted. And so now I've got what I consider a really nice fit bezel, and it fits on there really well. Like the stone doesn't fall out when I'm just holding it like that, but at the same time it pushes through and holds in there decently. Okay, so there we go. We've got kind of the bezel all done. So if you look from the side, you can see that it's not real deep. You don't really want, that's one of the biggest things that make it so hard to do stone setting, is people make their bezels way too tall. You really only need enough to push it over so the top circumference around the top of the bezel is tighter than the bottom, but only by a slight amount, enough to hold the stone. You really don't need much more than that. So I'm going to stop here before we go to solder on a back plate.